Archimex login confirmed.
Welcome to the Lodge. You've accessed
the Lodgecast experience.
Warning, warning. Dangerous spoilers ahead. Enjoy.
The Lodgecast is a little podcast where we watch weird movies, so you don't have to.
The Lodgecast, baby.
Lodgecast, gonna smoke grass. Lodgecast, missing movie pass. Lodgecast,
We're gonna watch some crap,
Lodgecast,
and then the Lodge Master chats.
With Lucas and Bishki.
Episode 56, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Hot town, summer in the city. Welcome to the Lodgecast. We are in Hollywood, California on a hot summer's day. I'm your Lodge Master. With me as always is Brother Bishki.
Hey.
And Brother Lucas in the back.
What up?
This is it, right? This is the big one?
This is the big.
This is the one we've been waiting
not
only all summer for, but all year for.
Yeah, years.
Now, Bishki, I feel like this is the be-all, end-all for you. This is your Star Wars. This is your Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and I have not felt this way since Force Awakens a few years back.
The movie is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, Tarantino is back for the 9th time, and he... I've been pretty Manson obsessed for the last month here.
Yeah, what have you been doing to prep for this?
I've read at least half of Helter Skelter by Vincent Bugliosi, and I listened to the You Must Remember This podcast of all the Manson stuff.
That's and you great. You went hiking around on the Spahn Ranch?
Yesterday or Friday, I was on the Spahn Ranch trespassing and
out in Chatsworth, California.
Yeah, and
be careful, Bishki.
I was just obsessed. I was like,
you're the third wheel to this tricycle. We can't lose you.
I was like going through the roughage, and,
no.
and I saw some,
alone.
Well, nobody would have joined me for what I was doing.
That's true.
And,
a true ninja works alone.
I was getting in the spirit, and I'm so pumped up for the Cinerama Dome screening tonight.
We are seeing it in the Dome, which, again, the Dome is a fickle mistress. It fucks up often.
Yeah, when I saw the Master, Paul Thomas Anderson, the Master, the AC
no
went
air conditioning.
There was no air conditioning.
I was at that screening.
I had to roll my pant legs up.
One of the worst.
Joke.
One of the worst.
We had the infamous
Billy Lynn's halftime walk.
With the projector cut out halfway.
They came out and said, we have good news and bad news. The good news is we can restart the movie. The bad news is you have to watch everything again. And it was so bad we walked.
Yeah.
So.
And then the speaker was buzzing.
So.
I've already been in the bathrooms. There's no toilet paper. But anyway.
But it's historic. It's an historic venue.
It does feel like a cathedral. Like tonight will be a religious service that we are all be in attendance for.
And we have pretty much everybody that's ever been a guest on this podcast will be sitting in our row tonight.
Yeah.
So.
And many will be joining us afterwards.
Well, Bishki says this.
Yeah.
We are going to see what happens after this 2-hour and 40-minute film.
Yeah.
We're going to see who has the medal, who has the muster to join us afterwards to discuss. So, we've never done a Tarantino on this humble podcast. What do you think, real quick, are your top 3 faves?
I think we talked about, like, in terms of where we thought we kind of said he couldn't top his 90s stuff necessarily, but I've still liked pretty much everything.
Sure.
Some more than others. My top now might be Jackie Brown.
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction is right there. I mean, Reservoir Dogs. I don't know. I mean...
Yeah, I feel like it's the normal top 3 is among those
the
3.
first 3, yeah.
And then the rest is just kind of explorations.
Yeah, I like Death Proof. I like Kill Bill Volume 2. I liked...
Death Proof was the only one I didn't really like. But I found merit in all the other ones.
I like Django Unchained quite a bit.
Lucas?
Yeah, I go with Bishki. You know, my top 3 are probably Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, Reservoir Dogs, and for full disclosure, when I saw Reservoir Dogs as a teenager on home video, it's what inspired me, compelled me
Of
to
course.
sit down and type my very first ever screenplay,
Yep, that'll do
which
it.
was a Tarantino knockoff called Adversaries about a bunch of hitmen played by my neighbor friends that were all
Classic.
like 10 and 12 years old.
Beautiful.
I kind of fell out of love with him, though, starting with Kill Bill. I remember getting my hands on the script in college and reading it and being like, this is Fox Force 5, but like not as good. And then when I saw it, I remember Volume 1, that opening, that cold open where she gets blasted, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And then it was just kind of like cartoony or cheesy. Like, I just did not appreciate the aesthetic. Or
Well, let's
like,
not get lost in the weeds here. So
the last movie of his that I liked was the most recent one, The Hateful Eight.
Bishke and I saw The Hateful Eight in the 70mm roadshow presentation in Minnesota.
Yes.
We walked in to a midnight show of a 3-hour plus or whatever, however long it was filmed.
Pretty sure it was packed in Minnesota.
It was packed.
Yeah.
There was an intermission, and when we came out, when the film was over, we were in the middle of a blizzard.
Yeah.
And
I think I almost died on the way home.
I did too.
It was a snowstorm.
It linked up perfectly
That's the
with
way
the
to see
snow.
it. That's the way to see it.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way to see it. And so I think my experience of that was painted a bit by just the amazingness of the blizzard.
Yeah, I really dug the score, too, for Hateful Eight. The
But-
overture and...
But tonight's film in the Dome will be also projected in 70mm. So we're seeing it probably in the way that Tarantino would masturbate to.
Yes.
And wasn't Sharon Tate murdered like this very weekend 50 years ago? Or am I wrong about
No,
that?
August 9th. He wanted to release it then, but I think the studio objected for some reason.
Yeah, it's some question of taste, perhaps. Speaking of which, my question is this. It's 2019. Are there going to be any N-bombs in this film?
Yeah, but probably from like racist cops that are in uniform.
think so?
Yeah, they'll be like
Well, I mean,
contemporaneous to the time, maybe.
Manson is super racist. So
Okay, so he's going to be...
I think we might hear
He'll
one.
be the outlet for all of Tarantino's
Yeah,
needs
I mean,
with that.
Helter Skelter, he wants a race war, so he...
That's true.
And his family. I mean, I could get into it, but I won't too much.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Tarantino... I mean, we were going to remake Pulp Fiction when I was in middle school. I did a knockoff of Tarantino movie script that I started shooting in college. Like, the guy is all over all of our lives.
You weren't a filmmaking teen in the 90s if you didn't try to knock him off at least once. If you
No.
didn't have a Ziploc bag full of powdered sugar that one of your little dipshit friends stuck a knife into and tasted
I had a
it.
briefcase. I went out and bought a briefcase.
There you go. See, that separates the wheat from the chaff. I mean, guys, let's just do this. Let's enter the Dome. And I have no clue who's coming out with us.
Love and Light, Quentin Tarantino.
We should have shotguns for this kind of deal.
San Diego freeway northbound around Culver City, Westwood in the Beverly Hills. You've gone Hollywood. I'm gonna look, I won't touch. Oh, it's live, but didn't think very much. Where they happen to be at tonight is Hollywood. As I stepped out on my front porch, for miles around I see Hollywood the way she once was, Hollywood the way she be. As I step back on my back terrace, amongst the pretty leaves on my lemon tree, San Fernando Valley way below, I'm heading to the east side of Hollywood. I'm stomping on the west side of Hollywood. I'm stepping to the north side of Hollywood.
I'm stuck to the south side of
Hollywood.
Holly wants to go to California. Hollywood is Holly. Holly, she belongs in California. Hollywood, if Holly could.
We are back from the Dome, the Thunderdome. We saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Hollywood.
We had 14 lodgers with us. 14. And we were able to get a small fraction of that, a small coalition of the willing, to come back after the 2-hour and 40-minute runtime. We have with us Brother Matt.
Hey, what's going on?
And Brother Steve.
Yeah.
Steve, it's been a minute. It's been since
it has.
Hereditary,
Yeah.
hasn't it?
Nice.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Before we dig into the deep plate of nachos that was this film, Brother Bishke, what's that schnapps?
From Rotten Tomatoes. Quentin Tarantino's ninth feature film is a story that takes place in Los Angeles in 1969, at the height of hippie Hollywood. The two lead characters are Rick Dalton, Leonardo DiCaprio, former star of a Western TV series, and his longtime stunt double, Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt. Both are struggling to make it in a Hollywood they don't recognize anymore. But Rick has a very famous next-door neighbor, ... Sharon Tate.
Ooh. All right. So I feel like this is Tarantino, would you say, at his loosest?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the story, as it were, I don't think the story is as important as just the vibe and the hangout. It's one of those movies, you know.
Devil's in the details.
2 hours and 40 minutes. The story does not populate all of it. Like, it's a lot of asides. It's a lot of tangents. And I think, as with anything, you have to be in the mood.
Yeah.
You just have to be.
Could you imagine seeing this at like 3 a.m?
Well, before we really dig in, we had an entire row dedicated
row S in the center,
dedicated to our gang, our cult, and we all got into position, and we were
1 seat short.
We were 1 seat short. So Bishke,
and there was this couple at the end, and I was like, I swear to God, when I counted the seats, we had 14 seats in a row, and they were all in this row.
And this has been Bishke's Herculean endeavor to organize this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's going smoothly up until this point.
And now he's without a seat, and the time is ticking.
And it's showtime.
Someone's in S16, so I go over, and they show me their ticket, and it says Saturday, July 27th, 7. But I didn't see this, but luckily the usher found this out. They bought the tickets for 7 a.m. this morning.
This movie has a 7 a.m. screening. It also has a 3 a.m. screening. They are packing them in. Can you imagine seeing this movie at either 7 a.m. or 3 a.m.? I cannot fathom it.
No way.
I can't believe, 7 a.m.?
Oh, my God.
No way.
But it's also hard to believe that a movie like this nowadays could even have seats available at that time.
That's true.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
that's
it's
true.
kind of a big deal. It's worth mentioning.
It's a huge deal.
Well, the thing is, I think these people bought the tickets yesterday, so I didn't feel very bad about being like, come on, guys.
Right.
It's the Cinerama Dome on the opening weekend. Get out of my seat and go home.
I love it.
I started telling people, I was like, I think someone's gonna get Gotti'd. You know? Like, it felt like a Gotti situation. Like,
and when we saw them stand up, they were vanquished, and Bishke was standing tall,
triumphant.
looking triumphant. We all were so happy, and then the information of what happened just spread down the line like a telephone. It was great. It was great. So we all settled in. You hit the seat just as the lights went down.
Yeah.
All was well. So, another disclaimer, and I think this is a big reason why we weren't able to marshal more people back to the Prius tonight, is because with a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies, you don't know what you just saw. We are fresh from the battle, and it has not sunk in. Nothing has sunken in yet.
We're ruminating.
So all of these bones are subject to change. I mean, wildly. Once we see it again, if we do see it again.
I'm on record revising bone counts, like, if you go through the past episodes.
And we might have an episode in the future where we go back and revise from episodes that we've done. I really want to do that.
Yeah.
So tonight, I don't know. We're just riffing.
Yeah.
Bishke, why don't you give us your initial impressions, since you're the one that was peeing his pants heading into this?
Yeah. No, I mean, the detail are insane. Like, the level he went.
Are you a fan of the time period? You must be.
Yeah, I mean,
if you were spelunking around Spawn Ranch.
I've been living in the time period in the last month, just, soaking up the details. But, just movies from that time and era, like, he goes beyond, like the TV shows he's referencing, the music he's referencing, like, goes so deep.
We are deep in his 60s fetish mind.
I'm starting to understand, like, the New Beverly, which is the theater Tarantino owns here, the programming there is so esoteric and
it's
weird.
right in this pocket.
Obscure.
And obscure stuff. And this movie is really, you get that frame of
It
mind.
turns his brain inside out, and you're just sitting in it. You're just playing in it.
Yeah.
And it truly is like, if that's to your taste, then you're going to be in heaven. If you think that's masturbatory, which it is, there is no way around calling this 2 hour and 40-minute runtime masturbatory. That said, yeah, the details, are they enjoyable for you? I feel like the two main characters are great. I thought Leo and Brad did amazing work, especially Brad, because he's so damn likable in this.
Mm-hmm.
He should get a spin-off movie. I'd like to see his stuntman adventures, you know? I'd like to see him do more stunt work. When he does that parkour up the side of the house to fix DiCaprio
I'm pretty sure that was
antenna.
Brad. I'm pretty sure that was Brad.
It looked great. Yeah, like there were a lot of little touches like that. But the plot, I mean, what is the plot? Like, DiCaprio is feeling like he's a has-been. He's a washed-up actor. He's struggling with his mortality as an artist and as a human being. And Brad Pitt's just trying to keep him on track. All the while, the Manson stuff is bubbling in the background. We see Charles Manson once.
That's right.
No lines.
He just sees Sharon, which did happen.
He says, hey, ma'am, you know, but that's about it, which is kind of interesting. There's just kind of vignettes. There's kind of just sections of the movie where we're just hanging out in a scene from the show he's shooting, or we're hanging out on Spawn Ranch, and you have to be along for the ride. You can't subscribe to this like it's a movie with a propulsive plot, or you're gonna get so frustrated.
A series of vignettes is a good way to describe it, because for me, like halfway through, I started going, this sort of feels like a sketch show. This sort of feels like Portlandia.
Yes.
Where we're jumping around from
California.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, what did you guys think? Were you guys squirming in your seat during some of this? Or
Well, I got up to go pee maybe like 30 minutes in or 40 minutes in.
Yeah, me too.
Because I had a glass of water and 2 beers and some of Brother Nathan's whiskey soda.
Thanks for the full rundown.
So yeah, I was cruising at altitude. But that being said, I wasn't like worried about missing anything.
Right.
Because yeah, like you said, I knew at that point that this is definitely his most aimless or plotless.
And that's usually a problem for you, LT. So how were you holding up?
Not great. Like, I felt bad for Brother Zach, who was sitting next to me, because I kept sighing.
Oh, no, you were infecting.
Looking at my watch.
You were doing the infecting thing.
Yeah.
You're sucking the joy out of everybody around you.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
the cold pursuit effect.
Yeah, right. I just, like, plot.
Why do you do that?
I can't help it, man.
Why don't you hold it in?
Like,
Stuff it down.
Once I realize I'm in for this for, like, almost 3 hours, like...
in a hot fucking theater.
I die. Like, it's like a little tiny death.
The air conditioner wasn't working.
There's no AC, right? So I feel like a fool bringing a sweater. But it was definitely inert. It had no momentum, which makes it hard to stay focused or engaged. I mean, like, when Brad Pitt's on screen, I perk up and I'm laughing and I'm having a good time, but he was not on screen enough for 2 hour 40 minutes.
Brother Steve, counterpoint, perhaps?
A counterpoint to that? No, this is definitely the battle of Leo and Brad for me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see my two guys
so
together.
Did you feel like all the Manson stuff was impeding on that, or what was the struggle for you?
No, I was along for the ride with Brad and Leo for most of the time, and then when I realized, I don't know, we're not spoiler free, are we?
We're spoiler centric.
Okay, great.
Yeah, all about it.
When I realized that it was going to be one of Quentin's like rewriting history, and he was going to get his jollies off on being like, "How dare you kill Sharon Tate?" I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, I'm down at this. Fine, let's just do this."
So
I knew I was going to get my violence and my Quentin and all that bullshit. So
the whole movie, I mean, it's inevitably leading up to this massacre that everybody knows about, and everything's real doom and gloom. There's what's that Stone song that they play? You're out of time.
Out of time.
So subtle.
Did anybody think that it was just going to be a completely violent, brutal reenactment of what actually happened?
Nah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Chart your progress.
I was always wondering from the inception of this movie.
Are we going to see a Quentin Tarantino reenactment?
To stab Sharon Tate. Like, there's no way.
Right.
That he can do this. So I was like, is Bruce Lee going to come in?
Right. Bruce Lee's an auxiliary character in this.
Yeah. And he's, he did this with Inglourious Bastards where he killed Hitler. And
he's giving nods to his own movie with Leo's Nazi burning past on film.
Yeah.
So
that was the most cringy point for me, to be honest.
You didn't like that?
I did not like that.
You thought he was giving himself a little wank by...
Well, I just thought it was going back to the Nazi well one too many times. Like, you've already done a whole fucking feature about murdering Nazis in brutal ways. I don't need to see Leo doing it too. There's something funnier there. You should have dug deeper.
Well, maybe
I second that absolutely.
Right on.
Maybe it's like Robert Zemeckis with Marwen, where he knows that like Nazi shit is coming back into fashion, and they just want to be on record in history saying, "I took a blowtorch, I took a fucking flamethrower."
Lodge Master, don't compare this film to fucking Marwen.
Listen, I'm going to compare every movie to Marwen. I can't help it. It's the cross I bear. But yeah, like, I think when the killers were heading up the drive with their knives, I had a turn in my mind because I knew we had been watching the movie for so long.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is gonna wrap up. This movie has had kind of a jaunty comedic tone this whole time. And what are we to do as a viewer with a completely ridiculously violent slaughter of Sharon Tate and all her friends? I knew it wasn't going to happen. It couldn't happen.
No.
It couldn't happen. But I think we're summoning the Salad Dragon here.
The Salad Dragon. A scene in a movie that is so bizarre, baffling, or transcendent that it instantly justifies the price of admission. Or Reese Witherspoon's leafy transformation in A Wrinkle in Time.
I think what does occur is quite beautiful. Brad Pitt buys an acid-soaked cigarette for 50 cents and decides this is the night that he's going to smoke it, which is beautiful. So he does it. He starts tripping out. He's having trouble feeding his dog. His dog's getting confused. And the killer's moving up the drive. Don't go into Sharon Tate's house. No, they go into Brad Pitt's house. Or it's actually Leo's house. Brad Pitt's just staying there. And that's where the confrontation happens. And he is tripping out. And I love the restraint of not showing his trip point of view.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Isn't that weird that never happened?
Yeah,
I agree completely.
Because I was like, well, if Quentin Tarantino's going to show us an acid POV, it's going to be the acid POV to end all acid POVs. But he didn't. Yeah. And I kind of like that. You just kind of imagine.
Yeah.
And you see Brad's facial expressions, and they tell it all. Like, it's so great.
And that's what it's like when someone's on acid. You have no idea what's going on inside their head.
And the more they explain it to you, the less you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's like explaining a dream. You're just like, what are you talking about? But the confrontation that he has with them, we already know. We've seen him fight Bruce Lee. We know he's a skilled fighter. And to have them pull the guns and the knives on him, like, you just know shit's about to go down. And it goes down in the most brutal fashion imaginable. It is just like Inglourious Bastards' wish fulfillment. He throws a can of dog food that caves a woman's face in.
Yeah.
He bashes another woman's face into a telephone over and over again until her head is just liquefied. The dude killer with the gun, the dog eats his dick. It is just bedlam. It's as violent as the Tate murder would have been, but it's just flipped on the killers.
And they saved the best for last. Susan Atkins comes out, falls in the pool, and Rick Dalton, Leonardo DiCaprio, pulls out his flamethrower
that he has in the shed,
and just torches Susan Atkins to a crisp, and
I mean,
it's something to see.
It's amazing, but at the end of it, like once she sinks into the pool, I kind of had the feeling, I'm like, this has just been a giant trifle. It doesn't seem like there was anything really at stake at all, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know how that's going to age.
Has Tarantino ever had anything to say, though?
I don't think so. I mean, who knows?
All of them are sort of like...
That's a good point.
This one especially felt like a fucking carnival dark ride where it was like, oh, here's this. Now the cart's going to move, you're going to get to look at this and
right.
this and this. But at the end of it, there's nothing profound to sort of glean from.
It was like the 1969 ride.
Yeah.
Like at Dark Disneyland.
Exactly.
At Tarantino
what
Land.
Hollywood was like at this time.
That's it.
You know.
Yeah. LT, you look a little depressed back there. What did you think of this final showdown?
Yeah, I didn't really care by the time we got to the fireworks.
Oh, you were
factory.
out.
I was
you were
so
out.
checked out.
When did you check out?
From like the cold open, like the black and
no,
white. Yeah, I was
what
like
are you
so
talking
out
about?
from like minute
I heard
one.
you laughing.
Yeah, no, like look, I can react. Like I can laugh at bad movies, but like I mean, it wasn't enough. Like honestly,
Right.
what's crazy? I can't believe I'm saying this, but I don't think I would have seen the ending had I been alone. I might have walked out of this.
What?
One. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think Tarantino's right. It's time for him to hang it up. It's time to retire, buddy.
Even before he does a Star Trek
Because
movie?
you hit the nail on the head. Like masturbatory is the key word here.
But you weren't along for the ride.
And I wasn't really along for the ride because it just felt like just super artificial and glossy and phony and staged and stilted and like it was just like
Student feature?
No, it was just like it was just like I don't know, like the Rolling Stones playing their greatest hits for the umpteenth time in their like 70s, and you're like, man, like I don't think this is as good as when like they were doing it when they were younger. Like I wasn't jamming to this music at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, I echo Lucas's sentiments a little bit.
You weren't even sitting by him.
No, I know, but I just in terms of the pacing, it's downright leisurely. I mean, it is just it is
leisurely is too snappy a word for it.
It meanders
quite a bit.
and so like as with The Force Awakens, there's
naturally.
And welcome to Marwin.
There's parts where my interest perks up, and there's parts where my interest kind of dies down.
And I think he would say that's by design. He's like, it's a hangout movie. You smoke a bowl, you talk with your friends, and then you tune back in.
Yeah, just because I've been in so much into Manson, I was more on the Brad Pitt side of it.
Sure.
When he's picking up, Manson girls and going to Spawn Ranch, than I was maybe with Leo's like movie within a movie Western that he's doing, but.
And I think that's where I felt like it started really wandering into the woods of Tarantino's mind when there's a very extended scene of Leonardo DiCaprio acting, and it does have a payoff because he gets his mojo back and he starts believing in himself again. But Jesus, like so long. It's so long.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know it's blasphemous to say this feels like a first cut, like before you refine it and dial it in, but it really does. It feels
I think that's fair.
It feels like this is like a first or second director's cut, and he was in love with everything, and everybody around him is in love with everything that he's in love with. So there was no way to say, let's tighten the shit. The Spawn Ranch sequence, which
goes on for like a half hour.
Doesn't really have a huge payoff.
And it takes an hour and 40 minutes to get there.
It is
15 minutes to get to George Spahn, the Bruce Dern character.
It's a little it's a little tense as it is, but imagine how tense it could be if you cared to tighten the screws a little bit. But I guess that's not what he's into. He just loves every second of footage that he shot, it feels like.
Every moment of dialogue.
And that can try on even the most, avid Tarantino fan, I feel. Like, you can't tell me that you were on the edge of your seat smiling bright through that whole Spawn Ranch sequence. I don't know. Like,
what's the official count on foot fetish shots?
Oh my God!
Yeah,
there was so much.
A lot of Brad foot fetish there. A lot of moccasin shots.
For the lack of N-bombs, there were none.
Yeah.
He tripled, quadrupled, quintupled down with the feet, and those foot shots felt dirtier than if he slam cut to hardcore pornography. Like, they're dirty feet.
Margot Robbie's dirty feet.
They're dirty feet, and they are pressed against the windshield at times.
Yeah.
Like, he's getting more aggressive with these feet shots. Yeah. And he's, like, rubbing it in our faces.
It's unapologetic.
It's unapologetic. And he is lucky as hell that it's not something like Louis C.K. where he likes to, masturbate in front of people. Yeah. It's not something like that. It's something
so close.
He keeps it at the feet.
He can technically harmless hang up for sure.
He can technically get away with it, but I had to look away from the screen. Because he's looking at it with a fire in his eyes that is just hard to think about. I couldn't look at that shit. And it felt exploitative in the weirdest way, I'm like, Margot, keep your shoes on.
Yes, you can act, but let me see your feet. Well, what about your feet?
Show me your toes.
And then he's got Uma Thurman's daughter in it. I'm like, keep her boots on, like, partner. Like, be careful, man. What did you guys think about Bruce Lee?
Well, that was a fantasy sequence, right? I mean,
was it?
He's on the rooftop thinking about it. And then
I thought it was a flashback.
Like a very long extended flashback.
No, you're right.
But
but
then they cut back to him because if you think about the tone of the Bruce Lee sequence,
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's heightened. Yeah.
It's heightened. And they cut him back to him on the roof, and he's like, nah.
Okay.
So I think it was a fantasy sequence.
Sure.
I think it kind of plays out like that because him beating up Bruce Lee would, be a fantasy of his.
That would be. I guess you're right.
And the sort of gung-ho Steve McQueen-y American character that he is, like, I'll beat the shit out of Bruce Lee.
I would have liked.
You're right.
I would have liked if the entire movie was a fantasy sequence he was just thinking about on that rooftop. Like they cut back at the very end.
Bridge.
What if I smoked an acid-dipped cigarette one day and
killed all the Manson people? Yeah, that'd be interesting. What about Kurt Russell's random narration here and there? What so weird. What was that? What was that? Like, what was going on there?
Needs work.
Like,
I mean, Stuntman Mike in general showing up and squaring off against the stuntman in this movie was a little, cameo-ish and weird to me.
But like
Adam Sandler movie-ish to me.
They would just drop him in, like in the early going when DiCaprio's talking about not driving a car, and it interrupts, and it's like, that's bullshit. He gets DUIs or something, and it just cuts into a little.
Yeah.
It seems so half-hearted that is that the point? Was he like, I'm gonna throw, random little swatches of narration because they did it in this obscure, 1965 Italian movie? What is that?
Yeah.
Does that help things?
No, it felt like an abandoned concept. Like, this is something we're going to do throughout the film. It's not working. Let's keep the ones we did in.
But everything else is so deliberate. It just feels so weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then it never comes around to he's giving an interview, Kurt Russell's giving an interview about the past or something, which I wouldn't want to see that either. So I don't really know where to go with that.
Pacino was in it.
Pacino was there, looking real interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think he was drinking real alcohol on set? I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, Pacino
didn't have a lot to do. That was a favor to QT. I mean, you got Pacino. Maybe give him one scene where he's doing something.
And there's no real resolution with him.
No. I did like that when Sharon Tate's watching herself in the movie. They didn't transpose Sharon Tate.
Yes.
Over
Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
Margot Robbie over.
Yes.
But they did Forrest Gump Leonardo DiCaprio into The Great Escape,
which is crazy,
which was weird.
Why did they do that?
I loved that.
You loved that?
Maybe because the person he was replacing wasn't a victim of a murder. McQueen died of cancer, so coupled with just sort of the music cues bringing us into that, the little drops of the Great Escape score coming in. I really, really enjoyed that sequence. But yeah, when they didn't Forrest Gump Sharon Tate or Robbie into it, I thought that was a really smart choice, obviously. A respectful choice.
It is a respectful choice, but then you're just like, her bare feet are up in the theater, so who's being respectful there? Like, how is that respecting her legacy? Oh, I don't know. Am I being a prude about this feet thing? Am I off base here? I felt...
In all honesty, I didn't notice the foot thing at all.
Really?
Well, I noticed it when the Manson girl had her
one thing I noticed
jammed.
was like, man, Brad Pitt has moccasins. I get it. No, like I kept cutting to his moccasins.
It's not his feet.
And then I did notice Robbie's dirty feet. Those are the two.
The dirty feet in the foreground, and then the Manson girls.
Fetish,
the Manson girl smushing her feet into Brad Pitt's windshield in the extreme foreground.
Man, yeah,
you missed that one.
My hot dog at that time.
That was a hot dog scene for you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a strange movie. Like, I really don't know how this is going to settle, within the old movie-going psyche.
Well, let's settle it.
Let's go to them Hollywood bones.
I can feel it in my bones.
Let's see. What do we do here? Brother Steve, you are the oracle among us. I don't know what you're thinking about, and you came out of nowhere in Hereditary and dropped some science. So I want to know what your bone count is. What are you thinking about?
Well, I will say, as soon as the credits rolled, I was like, I don't think I'm ever gonna watch this movie again.
It's one of those.
I think that was it, and maybe I'll check it out. I was a huge fan of Hateful Eight, and everybody around me was not down with that. And I ended up watching Hateful a lot.
I was with you on
after that. But this movie, I mean, I gotta say, I was a sucker for the leading men. I just wanted to watch them do some Tarantino dialogue. I wanted to watch Leo. So, I mean, I'll go 2.5.
2.5 bones from Brother Steve. All right. Brother Matt.
That's me.
That's you.
Like I said earlier, it meanders quite a bit. I mean, 2 hours and 40 minutes. I honestly think that he could have shaved a solid 40 off of that and made a decent film. That's the shittiest thing I could possibly say because, like, for me, I haven't really enjoyed a Tarantino movie since Jackie Brown.
Whoa.
Django had its moments. But Django also meandered quite a bit. It's a super self-indulgent film, but it's like a badass playground where some of the best actors of our generation are enjoying themselves. And,
ooh, I like that.
Like it's a toy box.
I like that.
I really, really dug it.
That is what it is.
Just in the Tarantino afterglow, I give it probably 3.5 bones.
Whoa!
Because again, it's been years since I really enjoyed Tarantino, and Tarantino, because like all of us, like he was one of those guys where I was like, holy shit, oh my God, I want to make movies now. Like my dad and my mom kicked me out of Pulp Fiction. We were watching it on VHS because of all the F words.
Perfect.
And then the next morning, my dad snuck into my room and gave me the tape, and he was like, hey, you should finish this. It's really good.
I love it.
Like, so for me, it's an odd return to form, and also living in Los Angeles. Is Tarantino, it's a huge love letter to this city.
It is.
So I've got to give it 3.5 bones. Sorry for the long.
No. I love it. I love it. All right, Brother Lucas, take the wind out of those sails.
Yeah, dude.
What do you got?
Well, yeah, I'm getting cranky in my old age, and I do become a hothead when you make me watch a long movie.
You stayed awake though.
That's hot.
Right?
It's a hot theater.
You were awake? Were you awake?
Of course. You can't fall asleep in those seats. I mean, I tried, but then like my ass falls asleep, and I feel like I'm paralyzed or something. I can't get out of my seat, and there's a fire, and I'll be fucking trampled crawling on the floor. But yeah, I really wish there was more of a plot and like it was shorter. And I kind of knew like long before I saw the movie that it was going to be a revisionist rewriting of history, like Inglourious Basterds.
You knew before.
Of course, like without a doubt, like 60s Hollywood, like without a doubt. And once Margot Robbie was cast and she was announced as Sharon Tate, it was like a done deal, right? So I was thinking that he was going to lead up to it, where they're tied up. He's like going by the police report of like what happened, and then Brad and Leo hear something, or like they intervene, and it's like a long extended underground basement bar Inglourious Basterds scene. This movie did not have that scene. Like not even like
I'm kind of surprised it didn't go that way.
Even like the salad dragon at that point, I felt was just like unearned, or like it just felt flat. Like I wasn't enjoying like the brutality, even though they deserved it because they are like scumbags and murderers in real life. It just, I don't know, like it just didn't sit well with me. Like I didn't.
It was a hollow dragon for you.
I wasn't on the ride, yeah. So I was checked out. I give it 1.5 bones.
Wow. I mean, you just move on after something like that. Brother Bishke?
Tarantino, you weirdo. This is like, yeah, this is deep inside Tarantino's mind. Like, I imagined a lot of things as I was studying the Manson family.
Yes.
And
did all this check out?
None of what I imagined ended up on screen, but nevertheless.
What did you think was going to happen?
I don't know.
You just thought something else was going to happen.
There's so much interesting shit that goes down with the Manson family.
Yeah.
That I thought the story-wise, it was going to have more to it.
Right.
But the production design is off the charts.
It is.
The cinematography is off the charts. It's restrained in its direction, but it's well directed, and I did enjoy almost all the performances. I'll run with 2.5 bones. I might revisit it at the New Beverly Cinema down the line.
You know they'll be playing it every other weekend.
They're going to be playing it
forever.
So it's for movie lovers. He packs in loads of pop culture and movie posters and all his different fetishes around that. He even throws a little jab at the New Beverly while they're getting into the El Coyote. He's like, they're showing a porno down there. And it's a love letter to LA. Like, I could watch Brad Pitt driving around LA for like the rest of my life.
There's plenty of driving shots.
I loved all the driving shots.
You could fill a whole DJ set just with driving shots from this movie. All right, 2.5. You know what? I don't, like I said, I don't know how this is going to settle, and I feel like this is reckless of us to even be doing this. It's downright dangerous. I enjoyed it pretty much throughout, but my ghost editing fingers were just all over some of these scenes, and I cannot just ignore that. Like, I think a lot of the people that are going to be breathlessly praising this are going to be self-delusional a little bit.
I would have totally cut out the scene where Sharon Tate talks her way into her own movie in Westwood and then proceeds to watch the movie almost in real time, but not quite. But it's definitely like 20, 25 minutes.
It's so long. And you're just like, again, like if there were a little more meat to develop with the story, I think all of this would...
You know what would have been cool is if you had... Right,
Is this a live rewrite?
This is a live rewrite.
Live rewrite.
Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
If you had the ending, the salad dragon of them, Brad Pitt fucking them up as like the midpoint, and then Leo's like, God damn, like who are these motherfuckers? And Brad's like, I know exactly who they are. And then they suit up and go to Spawn Ranch, and he's like, I'm gonna get my friend back. And at the end, like they get Bruce Dern, and Bruce Dern gets on a horse and is like, now let's kill all the hippies, and you like end with Helter Skelter over the closing credits.
Fucking bored with that.
Lucas, brother Lucas, your live rewrites have never ceased to amaze and inspire and delight me.
Thank you.
Even the Pet Sematary rewrite where the semi-truck is now opioids. This might be your finest hour. I want to see that movie now. What the fuck?
Yeah, Helter Skelter over the credits is inspired.
Oh, Lucas. Well, now, did I just lose a half bone because I want to see that movie? No. I'm going to give this 3 bones. I think that's a safe bet. I enjoyed myself despite the heat of the theater and that stupid theater. I enjoyed myself. There's just a lot to love. And I think if I did see it again, I would have to be really stoned. Like, I think if you're really stoned, you can get on board with this.
Or on acid.
Or on acid. Like, you get real stoned and then you take a little bit of acid at, like, the midpoint.
Microdose.
You microdose it. You're going to be in good shape. But I'm going to give it 3 for now. And then if we do a revisiting episode, we'll see if anybody tinkers with it.
Rest in peace, Luke Perry. Good to see you.
Yeah, Luke. Oh,
what a send-off.
Yeah, so good. R.I.P. Luke. Well, thank you, Brother Steve and Brother Matt, for joining us after that huge endeavor at the Dome.
It was an event. It was an event.
It was an event.
The crowd was massive, and it was Hollywood's finest.
That's right. I'm glad we saw it in the Dome, and we'll never have to go back, right? Ever. Ever.
No.
I'd rather
Ever.
go to the new Bev.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so much light out there and love in the City of Angels. We love you all. Give us reviews on iTunes. We need them. Come on, make us look legit, y'all. Leave us them 5 stars.
SoundCloud comment.
None of those 1.5 star Lucas reviews.
And if anyone sees Jimmy Savile, tell him I'm coming for him.
He's still got Loquisha beef, folks.
Loquisha on my mind.
All right, love and light,
Love
everybody.
and light.
Love and light.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Lodgecast Podcast. What's up? It's your boy, Spence Nicholson. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm just going to say, I think this movie ruled. You know, I've seen some people talk about the pace might not be so great in his last several films. You know, once he lost Sally Menke. But, you know, the pacing of this movie, to me, is perfect. I saw this movie in a 70 millimeter screening at Cinerama Dome, which was cool because, you know, it got a good applause when the Cinerama Dome was shown in the film. But you know what I'd say? It was about 2 stops too dark. It was cool seeing it in film for the nostalgia factor, but I just saw it again last night, digitally projected, and it looks stellar. It looks better than the 70 millimeter. So I would say get off your high horse about seeing it in 70 millimeter or 35 millimeter and go see it in the superior distribution format, which is digital projection. I think this movie has some all-timer sequences. I never thought one of my favorite sequences in a movie would just be 2 people watching TV and commenting on it, but here we are. Bone count, 5 bones. Take care. Love you guys. Bye.
Tarantino, you weirdo.